Anyway, hi! I'm Dan.
I'm Andrew. This is our first episode of
Magic
Confluence.
And we'll eventually get one of those. We're here to talk about some of the new things that are coming out with the new Magic set, Commander, standard formats, a couple different things. I'm going to start by kind of touching on some of the newer stuff that's coming out right now, specifically with the Commander bent in mind. Let's just dive right in. Did you have anywhere you wanted to start, Andrew?
I wanted to start out with Teferi just because I think this card is really good for 3.
Yeah, in the group that you and I play in, I don't know how good he'll be in Commander. Now, that card is going to be huge in Standard, Modern, and possibly Legacy. That's where I'm excited for him for.
So let's go over the card. This is Teferi Time Raveler. It's 1, a white, and a blue. Legendary Planeswalker. It has a static ability. This is new for the Planeswalkers in this set. Each opponent can cast spells only anytime they could cast a sorcery. So it shuts down all instant casting.
Which is a big thing, and actually this is a throwback to the original creature printing of Teferi back in the Time Spiral block, which is back before you started playing, right, Andrew?
I think I've seen that card, though. Isn't it much higher converted mana cost?
Yeah, he's like 2 blue for a 3/4 with flash, and he has that clause on him. You also, all of your stuff gets flash, which is the second ability on Teferi. It's the plus, your sorceries cast as though they have flash.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be one of the biggest impactors for what makes this card good. Cards like Vidalcan Orrery, Leyline of Anticipation are incredible cards in the Commander format.
Yeah, so he's got a -3 ability as well. He comes in with 4. It says return up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand. Draw a card.
There's a very important clause on here where it says up to. Because if your opponent doesn't have anything or you don't have anything, you can still use it to draw a card.
Ah.
Which,
that's a good point. I didn't see that.
If you ever think yourself in a situation like, I'm dead, I can plus this Teferi won't do me anything, and there's nothing to kill them, you still minus him to just draw a card.
Yeah.
Which, in the worst situation, he's 3 mana, draw a card, and lock your opponents out until they can kill him. Like, they can't counter your stuff. I think this card is going to be huge in the traditional constructed formats. He's going to be amazingly hilarious in Limited. Traditionally in Limited, Planeswalkers have been like the defining piece, but now every player is going to get at least 3. This could be really good. Or really mediocre at the same time.
Right.
I think overall, card is worth at the price point right now.
What is the price, do you know?
He's fluctuating between 17 to 20.
Okay.
For a regular rare.
Right.
Which is pretty good.
One of the interesting things that they're doing with this set is all of the boosters have a Planeswalker in them. Is that right?
Correct.
Is it just one?
Just one.
Let's keep going through some of the Planeswalkers.
The big boy.
Yeah.
Nicobolus Dragon God. This guy's silly. He's one of the most intensive mana costs that I've ever seen on a Planeswalker. Probably ever printed on a Planeswalker.
That's a good point.
He has 5 colored mana and has no colorless cost.
Yep.
He has 1 blue, 3 black, 1 red, 4 loyalty, legendary Planeswalker Bolas. Is it Bolas or is it Nico? It's Bolas.
Yep.
It just sounds so much cooler. Bolas. And his static ability, like we said, all Planeswalkers in this set have a static ability of some kind. His static ability reads, all your Planeswalkers, all my Planeswalkers, Nicobolus does all of it, minus the static effects, but all of it. Your opponent has a Teferi, for example, you play a Nicobolus, your stuff gets flash. It doesn't really matter because your opponent still has the one that says you can't cast things unless it's sorcery speed.
Right.
But you still technically get the ability. His abilities, however, are just absurd. I can't think of any situation where, unless your opponent has like 3 Planeswalkers in play, you're not just going to use one or 2 of them to kill their Planeswalker. For example, his +1.
So you draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control.
You still only draw 1 card, and they can exile land with it. But you're still plus everyone exile a land, or a permanent, or something. Plus draw a card, minus destroy target creature or Planeswalkers. -3?
Yep, -3 is his next ability.
Blow something up. We've seen this type of modal or situational thing a lot recently, including down to his ultimate, which basically says you win the game. More accurately, if you don't control a legendary permanent, you lose the game.
Yep, that's his -8 ability.
And we've seen this a lot in the form of Vivian Reed, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Vraska Relic Seeker is technically 6 mana, but it still does the same thing, kind of. They're all plus, put a card in your hand or prevent some form of card advantage. Like, as I said, Vraska is 6, but she makes the dude instead of drawing you a card. Teferi says, draw a card. Vivian said, look at the top 4 cards, put a creature or land from among them into your hand. Bolas just draws you a card. All other minus, destroy or remove a thing. Teferi, -3, put target thing 3rd from the top of its owner's library.
Yep.
Vivian, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or flying creature. And their ultimates win the game.
Yep.
It's very rare for someone to ultimate a Teferi or ultimate a Vivian Reed and not proceed to win. Done it before.
Yeah. This card does everything. It's removal. It's a win condition.
The biggest thing about Bolas is his cost is really prohibitive. 5 colored mana for a 5 mana spell. He doesn't come in with a ton of loyalty either. He dies to a lot of very quick aggression. He's not very good against the aggressive red decks. He's not good against the mono white decks. He's probably decent late game commander where you just go, that's a problem. All right, I've controlled the board. Now I'm just going to plus him to draw a few cards and then kill everyone. His drawback on that commander aspect is if your opponent has a Bolas sitting on ready to ultimate on the next turn, just play your commander.
And next, I think this one's also really relevant. Karn, the Great Creator. He's a 4-drop legendary planeswalker. He has a static ability that says activated abilities of artifacts your opponents control can't be activated.
One-sided Null Rod. We've seen this card type twice before. Null Rod, Stony Silence. Both of which are powerhouses in their respective constructed formats, Legacy and Modern, locking out artifact-centric decks. But they also don't see a whole lot of playing Commander because getting your mana rocks to tap for mana is a hugely important thing.
Right.
Well, this is one-sided.
That's huge. Is there a card that does this one-sided other than here?
There's nothing else I've ever seen that does a one-sided aspect to it. It's plus turns an artifact into a dude. Target artifact becomes a creature with power or toughness equal to its converted mana cost until the beginning of your next turn.
Until your next turn.
Your next turn.
Yep.
So yeah, the beginning of your next turn.
Yep.
I was watching some testing videos earlier. In Standard, someone had treasures. And because it doesn't say you control.
Right.
So he turned his opponent's treasure into a creature and killed the treasure.
Nice.
And then...
That's awesome.
Yeah. So alternatively, it kills people. Mycosynth Lattice, which is the biggest offender in this situation.
Yep.
Because Mycosynth Lattice says your opponents can't use land.
Right, because Mycosynth Lattice turns all permanents into artifacts, and now your opponent's artifacts can't be tapped, therefore their lands can't be...
Well, it's not that they can't be tapped. It's that they cannot use activated abilities, and tapping a land for mana is considered an activated ability. Now, the biggest thing about Karn is his minus. I think this card is going to be huge in Commander just because the groups that we're involved with have some looser rules about the concept of a outside the game.
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't come up very often, but we have established rules on what it constitutes. All it says is -2, look from outside the game, grab an artifact you control, put it into your hand, from either outside the game or exile. The other thing about this is a -2, right?
Yes, -2.
And he comes in with 5. So you can play him, do this twice, and he lives.
Right.
Which is incredibly impressive.
So you're going to put it in every deck, and then you're going to have those cards in your sideboard.
Yeah. I personally, I've got a stack of cards. They're all artifacts. This is just my carte blanche, my pile that goes into all of my decks, and I put a card in every one of my decks. And depending on how big of a butt I want to be, depends on what card I go get.
Yeah, or what utility you need at the moment.
For example, like Grafdigger's Cage shuts down graveyard decks. Pithing Needle, that thing, the problem, I need to shut it down. Sorcerer's Spyglass for redundancy. Ensnaring Bridge, just to laugh at the Mael player. Engineered Explosives, Chalice of the Void, because I
that
bought a
that's
duplicate.
That's a mean one.
Just had some removal, and then just a big creature. Now, to be fair, card also does pair in Standard in a very interesting way. That is a pretty interesting combo with this next card on our list.
Okay.
Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. I have so many feelings about this card.
Now, we should start by saying this card's only available as a box promo, right?
Oh, I was going to get to that one. That's a rant in and of itself. I have feelings about this card, and that's part of it.
Okay, go ahead, give your rant.
Tezzeret of the 6-mana Planeswalker comes into play with 5 loyalty. He has one of the most powerful mechanics ever printed in the game of Magic, giving it to other things as his static ability. Creatures and Planeswalkers you own have affinity for artifacts. His +2 is Agent of Bolas' ultimate. Deals X damage to each opponent. You gain that much life, where X is the number of artifacts you control. There's more.
He also has another ability, -3. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. And then a -8 ability. Exile the top 10 cards of your library. Put all artifact cards from among them onto the battlefield.
Now, there's an interesting thing about Tezzeret. I don't care about his other two.
That's so good.
Wait, there's more, but you're not going to care about the wait, there's more, because the plus is just so good, it kills the man. My biggest issue with this card is the buy a box availability. You can only get Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, by buying a box from the first print run of the set, meaning he has an incredibly limited availability.
Yep. Okay, next Planeswalker here, we've got Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and he's 1 and 3 blue. This is basically Labman on a Planeswalker, which is pretty
Laboratory
cool.
Maniac.
But the mana cost is a little bit more challenging. Yeah, so his static effect is if you would draw a card while your library has no cards, you win the game instead.
Which is the same effect as the Laboratory Maniac. The next ones are, he's got a plus and a minus. He comes in with 4 mana, which is a pretty reasonable rate. +1, you mill 2, I draw a card. Or I mill 2, draw a card.
That's how I'm going to do it.
That's me too. Having the control over it, unless my opponent has Scryed to the top, or if they have a Sensei's Divining top, just things like that, just messing with that is great.
Yep.
Now, I also like the way that he's templated, and a lot of the walkers in the set also have this. -8. So you've got to plus up a couple times. Draw 7 cards, and then, if there's no cards in your library, you win the game. Now, this is relevant because if you kill him with that stack, or with that ability either on the stack or because of that ability, and you draw the last card in your deck, you still win.
Right.
That, I believe, is the last of the walkers we wanted to touch on. There are a couple other big cards that I'm really excited for Commander, specifically Feather.
Yes, you're very excited for this one.
Feather is probably the only real commander in the set, with the exception of maybe Niv-Mizzet Reborn. But yeah, Feather is the big one here that stands out to me. This has got a really unique effect. It's going to see standard play. There's been a lot of brewing from it. But it also just lets you do some silly things and buy back your combat tricks. Combat tricks are usually super bad in Commander.
Right.
Feather reads Flying. Whenever you cast a instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature you control, when it resolves, exile it. At the end of your turn, return it to your hand. He's also a 3/4 for 3. Legendary creature makes him super relevant against most of the removal in the standard format. His body is a pretty reasonable clock and pairs really well with a lot of the +3/+3, which is the common number, +2 or +3.
Right.
And the double strike ones that target it.
Right.
For example, it's just 1 red, target creature gets +3/+3. Well, if I +3/+3 Feather, it doesn't matter if it resolves. You can counterspell it. I still get it back. It doesn't actually care.
Right. Which is huge for that color combo.
Yeah,
it's card advantage because you're casting a spell and getting a card back. You're right. Yeah.
You're not getting anything new. You are recasting it. And a lot of these cards are going to be kind of lower power level compared to some of the other things in Commander. But there are also cards like Expedite. This target creature gets haste, draw a card for 1.
Yeah. A lot of those cantrips are going to be the way to go because you can just always have more options in your hand.
Those instant speed ones are going to be the great ones because if, for example, like I'll go Feather with 2 open mana, and then I'll pass a turn. All right, your turn. I'm going to give it haste.
Right.
And then at the end, your end step, I'm going to get it back.
Right.
And then under your turn, I'm going to give it haste. Just draw cards. Yeah. That's how it becomes the actual card advantage. But yeah, Feathers are great. I've already got a deck list built up.
I think this is going to be a pretty popular one. There's going to be a lot of new decks popping up building around this guy.
Like last time I checked, there were already like 80 decks on EDH Rec.
And the card's not even out yet, right?
Right. I'm building one. It's literally like hand scratched on paper from my office.
This next one, I'm interested for you to explain the combos because I don't know what those combos are yet. But the next one we're going to talk about is one of the gods. There's a couple of gods in this set.
There's 5 gods, 1 for each color, 4 of which are reimaginings / zombie versions of the dead gods from Amonkhet. Kefnet, Bontu, Oketra, and Ronis. And then you have Ravnica's own, the pig.
The pig is dope.
The pig. Ilharag Razebore. Ilharag is a 6/6 for 5 with trample. Legendary Boar God. When he attacks, take a card from your hand, put it into play, tapped and attacking, return it to your hand at the end step. In Commander, he's going to fit into basically any red deck. I've had a couple friends of mine say I want to make him as a commander just because he's a pig.
He is a legendary creature.
He is. The drawback is the creatures that I want to be putting into play aren't usually red.
Right. You want some big green thing or big...
A lot of people were really upset that he's not green also.
Right.
He is literally the Gruul, the red-green guild's god.
Right.
He has this big green streak across his head. But I'm looking forward to playing him in Standard and possibly Modern. Modern, he's just a redundant copy of Through the Breach. You play him, he sticks around, he's a 6/6, he attacks, you cheat Emrakul the Aeon's Torn in, and you attack for 21. And that's the game. He also happens to have the clause. All of the gods have this clause.
Yep.
When he dies or is exiled, put him 3rd from the top of your library. So it's basically instead of him dying, someone fairy tucks him.
Right.
All of the gods have this. It's the god clause at this point. We've had Indestructible being the defining before, or the Scarab god, Locust god, Scorpion god all had the
Return to
hand if it was put into your graveyard. This covers Exile too, which is really nice.
Right. Going back into your deck is maybe a little bit worse than in your hand or where, but...
But I think Ilharag is going to be probably one of the most impactful in Standard. Might see a little bit of splash into Modern, like a 1 or 2 of in Through the Breach decks, if those ever come back. But I want to play it with Meteor Golem in Standard.
That's the guy who destroys a permanent when he enters?
7 mana, 3/3 when he comes into play, destroy target permanent.
Nice.
Overcosted things like that, alongside Rhythm of the Wild.
And it put a creature would still be enters the battlefield.
Yes.
So you'd still get
It's not a cast, so you don't get cast triggers from Emrakul or anything like that.
Right.
But you still go, here's my ridiculously overcosted artifact, destroy a thing.
Right.
It comes back to my hand.
Yep.
Do it again.
That's good. That's real good.
It also pairs hilariously with extra combat step effects.
Oh, a good
point.
point.
Respond Resurgence, which is in Standard right now. Now, on to the traditional gods. My personal favorite, my boy, my darling.
This one?
Yes, that one.
I wasn't sure.
The bird. I was going to say the bird, man. The bird. It's Kefnet. It's blue. Come on. Come on.
You do like blue.
I love blue. Kefnet is amazing. He's the cheapest of them, with probably one of the more fair costs. He's a 4 mana, 4/5 flyer with the God Clause and a very uniquely worded ability. And what it says is the first time you draw a card for your turn, if it's an instant or sorcery, you may reveal it. If you do, you may copy it and then cast that copy for 2 less mana. So you mentioned combos. There's two infinite combos for infinite turns, one of which is standard legal. It combines Kefnet, Riverwise Augur. It's a 4 mana, 2/4 when it comes into play, Brainstorm. Okay. Which is draw 3 cards, put 2 cards from your hand back on top of your deck.
Yep.
And Karn's Temporal Sundering. Karn's Temporal Sundering is a legendary sorcery, so you have to control a legendary permanent, which Kefnet happens to be. Return target permanent to its owner's hand, take an extra turn. If I draw that from my first card for the turn, I reveal it. I pay 2 mana less for it, and I copy it. Mm-hmm. I still draw the original copy.
Okay.
So I pay 4 mana, I take an extra turn.
Okay.
I have my Riverwise dude in play. My target for my bounce effect is my Riverwise dude. Return him to my hand. I play him for 4 mana again.
Right.
I draw 3 cards. I put 2 cards back on top of my deck. The top card that I put back on is the Karn's Temporal Sundering. Gotcha. I go to my next turn. I draw Karn's Temporal Sundering. Yep. Repeat. This also works with Scroll Rack and any other normal Time Walk effect. The next cards that I want to talk about, which are the finales.
Okay. Yep.
The finales, they're, again, a cycle, one for each color. The green one is my favorite because it's Green Sun Zenith. Pairs well with Ronith for this reason. Or X, 2 green. Sorcery. Search your library and or graveyard for a creature. Put it into play. If X is greater than 10, creatures you control get +X, and haste until end of turn.
That's real good.
There's no exile discard clause on that one. There's on the blue one, but not on this one.
It's 10 or more? Or
10 or more.
Or greater than 10?
10 or more.
Okay.
For example, Smash.
Yeah, and you can you're tutoring for that.
Smash.
Yeah, that I didn't put that one on this list. I don't know why.
That's
probably
it's Green Sun Zenith. Yeah, that card is banned in Modern. Green Sun Zenith is a 1 mana and X, and it shuffles back in, and you can only get green creatures. Finality of Destruction does not say green creature.
Right.
I can go and get an Emrakul off of it if I want to. If I get an Emrakul, it comes into play with +15, +15, and haste. And you're
tutoring for that.
If you could tell me how you're getting 17 mana and not dead in any game where 30 damage is not lethal, I want to know your secret.
Yeah, that card's real good.
The next one on the list here is the first one that was actually spoiled, which is Finale of Promise. It's interesting to note that there were hours in the Amonkhet block, each of which had these names. Hour of Promise, Hour of Destruction, Hour of Devastation.
Right, yeah, I've seen those before.
They're all the colors have shifted. Finale of Promise is super cool, though.
Here, I'll read this one. This is X and 2 red. It's a sorcery. You may cast up to 1 target instant card and or up to 1 target sorcery card from your graveyard, each with converted mana cost X or less without paying their mana cost. If a card is cast this way, would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile instead. If X is 10 or more, copy each of those spells twice. Twice.
So
you may choose new targets for those copies.
It's important to note that the way that it's worded is a little bit difficult to kind of understand exactly how many copies you're getting. Because you cast them once.
Right.
And then you copy them twice.
So you get 3 copies? No, you get 3 total.
3 of each.
Yes.
So, that doesn't seem super great until you start thinking about things like Commence the Endgame 3 times.
What does Commence the Endgame do?
Commence the Endgame is an instant with for 6 mana. Can't be countered.
Okay.
Draw 2 cards. Amass X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. Amass is one of the new mechanics from War of the Spark that says put a 0/0 zombie into play.
Right.
Or zombie army. If you don't have one, put one into play.
Yeah.
And then put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the amass amount on the largest army you control. So you start out, go, hey, I've got 3 cards in my hand. Great. Draw 2. I go to 5. I make it a 5/5. Then I draw another 2.
Yeah.
I have 7 cards in my hand. I put 7 +1/+1 counters on it. I do it again, and now I have 9 cards in my hand. Put 9 +1/+1 counters on it. Gone from having no creature to having 21 zombie army. This is not the perfect situation, but it's one that might see standard play. Now, the other part about this is you get both an instant and a sorcery out of your graveyard.
You do, yep.
So you've got your instant. Now, what's your sorcery?
Right.
Pick a sorcery. There's a bunch of really good sorceries in the format.
Yeah.
There's deal 5 damage to target player at instant speed and at sorcery speed in the format.
Yeah, this card seems great.
Yeah, it's definitely going to go into any storm-based commander deck.
Yeah.
The next one on the list is the black one, which is Finale of Eternity. X, black. Destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less. If X is 10 or greater, return all creatures from your graveyard to play. That card, I imagine, is going to see standard play.
Yeah.
I will happily be sitting down from my mono red or my mono white opponent and go, Finality of Eternity for 2. That and that die.
Yeah. That's real good for 1 card. Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then the reanimate clause is awesome. I also really like the flavor text on this, the art and the story behind it. This is Liliana has triumphed over the situation and is walking up to Bolton and being like, no, bad dragon, bad. You even see the art where he's like hunched down. Yeah, it's awesome. The next one is the blue one, and it's a big mind spring.
I'm excited about this one.
It's probably the weakest in my opinion, but I think Wizards saw that differently because of the very definitive clause on here. Or Exile Hour of Revelation. It's a Mind Spring, which is basically a reprint of an old card, which is the sorcery speed, blue, X, draw X cards.
Right.
With that 10 mana clause. The 10 mana clause says, you have no maximum hand size the rest of the game, untap 5 land. In either case, you exile it. I trust Wizards' design team well enough, and I have a strong feeling that some of my favorite professional players were involved with this set's development, because I don't keep track of who developed what set. That exile clause is super relevant on there. It's not just tacked on there because all of them have it. This one was selected to have it.
Okay.
There's a reason it's on there. I don't know what it is yet. Bolus's Citadel.
Right.
It's one of the first cards that was spoiled from the set, and it's one that I've been looking forward to talking to since we started talking about this channel.
Yep.
Bolus's Citadel is a 3 black legendary artifact. You may look at the top card of your library at any point in time. You may cast or play the card off the top of your library at any point in time. If you do, instead of paying mana, you pay your life.
Yeah, you're cheating it out for life. And in Commander, where there's a huge resource of life, that card's going to be so good.
And then it also has one other cool clause that has my favorite word in Commander. Each.
Yeah.
Tap, sacrifice 10 permanents, each opponent loses 10 life. This card's going to be really good and should go into pretty much every black deck ever. It is also the Draft Weekend promo.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It's going to be pretty easy to get a hold of, so it's not overly priced. But I think the card is really cool.
Should we go back to the Elder Spell?
Oh, yes, the Elder Spell. This card is primarily existent in one of 2 capacities. Flavor, and it's a flavor win, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This is the element of the story. Nicobolus has trapped all of these planeswalkers. 37 that we know of, and then a bunch of unnamed planeswalkers are apparently running around. He's trapped all of them there. And he's got his army of Eternals, the blue Lazotep zombies, who have been trained and specifically engineered to steal planeswalker sparks, to fuel his spell that will give him back all of his pre-mending power, which basically was a god. The Elder Spell itself is a very surprisingly cheap spell for something that's supposed to be this world-ending.
Yeah, before this was spoiled, I don't remember what we were talking about.
Yeah, we were talking about like it should be like 7 mana, and if it doesn't say win the game, I'm going to be very surprised.
Yeah.
I actually don't hate this. It does one of 2 things. if for whatever reason the standard format gets bogged down where everyone just got like 12 planeswalkers in play, nothing else, the Elder Spell plays this kind of catch.
Right.
Of, all right, I can interact with this. This is a tool that exists. While also fueling your own planeswalker synergies. What it does is it says, destroy any number of target planeswalkers. Put 2 loyalty on target planeswalker for each planeswalker destroyed this way. But the biggest thing about it, it's contrary to where we were expecting, it's double black as opposed to like 7 or 8 mana.
Yeah.
I think this card is going to be reasonable. I don't think it's going to be fitting into a lot of commander decks.
No.
Some of them, the planeswalker-centric decks, can use it to fuel their own combos. Be like, all right, I'm going to play these 2 or 3 that I don't really care about, and then I'm going to play like an Ugin, Spirit Dragon, or Nicobolas, Dragon God, and I'm going to play Nicobolas, blow up every other planeswalker, and play ult Nicobolas and kill 3 people.
Right.
I think that's the only situation that I can see that card being relevant.
Right.
But it's cool. It's very flavorful. Flavor win in an unexpected way.
Yeah, I think your point about it being kind of a check on releasing all these planeswalkers and how rampant they're going to be. That's a good point.
The answer exists. You just have to make sure that you can play it if that's your problem.
Right.
Time Wipe.
Yep, Time
The
Wipe.
Wrath Effect!
It's 2 white, and a blue. Sorcery. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures.
Wrath of God effects, which is the colloquial term for destroy all creatures, are very good. They're usually 1 in every standard rotation. Sometimes it'll come and go. Lately, they've been dealing with Cleansing Nova, which I think Cleansing Nova is probably going to continue to see more play over Time Wipe. Time Wipe might have some significance in Modern, where you can bounce your Snapcaster Mages after playing it. Like, I'll play Snapcaster Mage, I'll Serum Visions, my Snapcaster survives for a minute. Oh, you've got a big board. I'll Time Wipe, I'll bounce my Snapcaster and destroy everything. Lets you rebuy things.
Yeah.
Standard is going to be more like sweeping the board and keeping your threat alive.
Right.
Commander is just another sweeper.
With, maybe being able to protect something that you got.
Bounce your commander, not having to pay commander tax. Bounce if you're playing Snapcaster or Torrential Gearhulk, bounce that. The next one here, this card.
I wasn't sure about this when I first saw it, just because it's a 1/3, but...
This is not a card for commander.
Right.
This is a card that will go into the Feather deck, because it lets you recast things in an interesting fashion.
You want to read this one?
I'm going to try and do it from memory.
All right, let's see.
So it is a 1/3 trampler for 2 mana. It's Dreadhorde Arcanist. It is a zombie wizard. When it attacks, you may cast an instant or... I don't think it says sorcery.
It is or sorcery.
It's or sorcery.
Yeah.
Timing restrictions get weird. Instant or sorcery from your graveyard with converted mana cost less than or equal to its power. So this card is going to be really impactful in Modern and Legacy, where you have 1 mana cantrips all over the place. Your 1 mana spells are amazing. Or I'll attack with it for 1. I will cast my Ponder.
Right.
I'll cast my Brainstorm again.
Right.
Now, the reason
it will exile once you recast it.
Which is where this gets interesting with Feather. So Feather's specific terminology says it happens, it exiles it, and then it goes to your hand. This says, when you cast it, exile it. Because they don't go to different places, it actually goes back to your hand after they exile.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely need to put that in the Feather deck.
Yeah, old tricks with Obsidian, Ghost Council, and Whip of Erebos. You used to be able to activate Whip of Erebos, return Obsidian, Ghost Council to play, attack for 5. The Whip exiles it. You also trigger your exile effect. They both go to the exile. Then the effect from Obsidian brings him back into play and no longer affected by the Whip.
Nice.
Yeah, that card is going to be really nice.
It also has a trample.
Yeah. Less relevant.
With 1 power.
Yeah. In a deck with, for example, Feather, where we're playing things like +3/+3 for 1 mana.
Right.
I +3/+3, I attack, I +3/+3 it again. That 1/3 is now a 7/9.
Right. Yeah, now it's actually going to use that trample. But The last card we were going to talk about, Blast Zone. This one's pretty cool.
Blast Zone
It's a land. This is the only land we had on the list.
There should be one more, but this is the one that I wanted to talk about. The other one is Emergent Zone, which is your stuff gets flash. Pay 1, sacrifice it, your stuff gets flash. We talked about your stuff getting flash earlier with Teferi. It's good. It's on a land. There's not much more to say about that.
Yep.
Blast Zone is a pseudo reprint of one of the best catch-all artifacts that has been printed in a long time, Engineered Explosives. Blast Zone is a non-legendary land. It comes into play with a counter on it. Type add 1. Pay 1, tap it. Pay XX, tap it, put X charge counters on it so you can raise it as you go.
Right.
Pay 1, tap it, sacrifice it, destroy all...
Pay 3.
Is it 3?
It is 3.
Yeah, that's a little less exciting. But that's still the same amount of mana I pay for Engineered Explosives. Pay 3, tap it, sacrifice it, destroy all non-land permanents with converted mana cost X, where X is the number of charge counters on it.
Yeah.
Engineered Explosives was X Sunburst, which was for every color that you pay into it, put a charge counter on it, sacrifice it for 2 mana, destroy all permanents with X or less, where X is the number of charge counters on it.
Right, and so you can do that on the same turn, whereas this, you'll have to put some counters on it.
In theory.
I guess if you were just doing for,
For one, you can do it on the same turn. Engineered Explosives, you could also do it for 0.
Right.
The biggest one here is you can't catch tokens with Blast Zone.
Yeah.
I think this card is going to be huge in a lot of formats. Legacy Lands is new best friend. That card is going to see all kinds of play there. I think that's it for us today.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the release date was going to be on May 3rd, and the pre-release was on the 27th.
Set also goes live in Magic Arena on the 25th.
Yep.
There's a bunch of really cool promos and stuff you can get on Arena right now, specifically pricing. You can get a bunch of packs for a really good rate.
Right. I'll have to jump in and play some more. I haven't played Arena in a couple weeks. It might even be a month.
You disappoint me.
I know, right?
I would...
Especially with the new set coming out. I'll get back in there. Yeah, that wraps up the first episode.
Well, thank you guys for watching Magic Confluence.
Yeah. We'll see
Take
you
care.
guys next time.